What is PIP and MedPay insurance? That will be the focus of our discussion today as we talk about automobile insurance. My guest is North Carolina attorney David Daggett of Daggett Shuler Law. David, how are you doing?
Doing great, Cindy. Thanks for having me on today.
David, always glad to have you. Well, David, I'm familiar with the terms PIP and MedPay, but I don't know exactly what they mean or if they're even applicable in your state. Why don't you help us out with an explanation?
Well, PIP and MedPay are similar. Let me tell you real quickly, we're in North Carolina, and North Carolina does not have PIP coverage. That's personal injury protection. Now, that doesn't mean that it necessarily doesn't come into play. PIP coverage could possibly apply to a North Carolina resident if they are either out of state and injured in an accident, or if they're in North Carolina and riding in an out-of-state vehicle. So we won't completely forget about it, but we don't have PIP coverage in North Carolina, okay? We do have MedPay coverage. MedPay is short for medical payments coverage. And really what MedPay is, it's like having health insurance on your car. Liability insurance coverage is fault-based coverage. MedPay is incident-based coverage. So it doesn't matter who's at fault in the accident. If you're in the car, you're injured, incur medical expenses, and there's medical payments coverage, you're entitled to recover. It's like having health insurance on your car. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but let me ask you this. Does everybody have this type of coverage on their auto insurance policy? Is it mandated by law or is this optional?
No, MedPay coverage is optional coverage in North Carolina, and it's called contractual coverage. Contractual coverage is different than mandated coverage in that you've agreed to that additional coverage with the insurance company. The nice thing about the contractual coverage is the person with medical payments coverage has a lot of rights, and it's good coverage to have, and it's not very expensive.
Now, what do you find with your clients? Do most of them have MedPay coverage? I know that I hear personal injury attorneys talk about the problems with people buying the proper coverage and being properly covered. It's always an issue.
A fairly large percentage of people do have medical payments coverage. It's interesting, depending on which insurance company you're dealing with, the odds go up as to whether medical payments coverage is available. Some insurance carriers are a little bit more aggressive about selling the extra coverage than others. But we see medical payments coverage available in a large percentage of cases. It can range anywhere from $1,000 of coverage to usually we see a maximum of $5,000 of coverage, although in some cases it can actually go higher.
Okay, well, David, let me go back to what we talked about in the beginning. Suppose it's an out-of-state driver. And I am an out-of-state driver. I'm from Philadelphia, as you know. But suppose I have an accident in North Carolina. I would have PIP coverage, I believe.
What you do is you would not have medical payments coverage if you were riding in your car in North Carolina because your car is insured in Pennsylvania that has PIP coverage and not medical payments coverage. If you're in North Carolina and you're riding in my car, you would have medical payments coverage that covers my vehicle, plus, depending on the contract with your insurance company, you may also be entitled to your PIP coverage in Pennsylvania.
Wow, this is really complicated.
Well, it is, and this is one of the reasons that we recommend that anybody who's injured in an accident and has pending claims consult with an attorney. Unless you do this every day, you simply cannot know all the ins and outs of insurance law.
Right.
And this can be very complicated. And in fact, sometimes we can find more than one medical payments coverage policy that applies to a person in an accident, and you just never know the coverage you're going to find if you don't know where to look, and the average person would have no way of knowing where to look for coverage.
Well, that makes sense. Well, David, if someone wants more information, how can they reach your office?
Well, they can reach us in many different ways. We like to be very responsive technologically, certainly you can reach us through our website at www.daggett-schuler-law.com. We also have an 800 number, 1-800-815-5500. Our email addresses are on our website, and we tend to be very responsive and like to help people with these situations.
Well, I certainly know that to be true. David, listen, thanks so much for your time today and for sharing your expertise with us.
Well, thank you, and I always enjoy being on State Law TV.
Very good. This is Cindy Speaker for State Law TV.